Right now, Israel is carrying out its third massive attack on Iranian territory in the past 12 hours. It is known that missile complexes on Iranian territory have been hit, as well as missile storage sites and a nuclear facility. There are already confirmations that Iran's key nuclear facility has indeed been struck. In addition, the hideouts of high-ranking officers of the Iranian military leadership were hit, and it is known that 3 key generals and officials of the Iranian regime were eliminated as a result of previous attacks. Thus, American President Donald Trump is already threatening Iran, saying that this was only the beginning and that an even more fierce attack on Iran will follow if Iran does not sign the nuclear agreement right now. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu warns that the war with Iran will be long. Meanwhile, sources in American and Israeli intelligence report that both sides had actually been preparing for this attack for a long time. And all the media hype and all the public statements about negotiations were just a cover, a kind of smokescreen, so that Iran would let its guard down and not be prepared for this operation. Interestingly, the Israeli armed forces not only carried out an air attack, but also conducted ground operations directly on Iranian territory, which indicates that Mossad had really been preparing for this for quite some time. In short, the Israeli military claims they used 200 fighter jets for the first wave of attacks. In response, Iran launched more than 100 Shahed drones towards Israeli territory. General Hossein Salami, the commander-in-chief of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, was killed in the attack. He was one of the most influential figures in Iran. Major General Mohammad Bagheri was also killed in the attack. He was the highest-ranking military officer in Iran. Netanyahu stated that Operation Rising Lion struck Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. He said the operation targeted nuclear scientists and what he called the heart of Iran's ballistic missile program. According to Iran's state news agency Tasnim, 6 nuclear scientists were killed. United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio has already stated that the United States was not involved and did not provide any assistance in the strikes. Before the attack, President Donald Trump stated that he did not want Israel to target Iran while United States negotiations on the nuclear deal were ongoing. After the attack, Donald Trump stated that he knew about the upcoming operation and warned Iran that things would get much worse if they did not make concessions on the nuclear agreement. In this episode, let's gather all the information piece by piece, build a chronology of Israel's attack on Iran, and try to figure out what consequences we should expect from this escalation in the Middle East. And of course, we'll raise some less obvious questions about this attack, and I'll share with you some insights regarding Israel's future operation against Iran. My name is Alexei Pichi. Today is June 13th. We'll get to everything step by step, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like this episode, and leave any comments so that YouTube's algorithms promote this episode and as many viewers as possible can see it. Also, subscribe to my Telegram channel. The link to it is in the description of this video. So, now let's break everything down and go through what's happening in the Middle East chronologically. On Friday morning, Israel strikes at the very heart of Iran's nuclear, military and missile complex, carrying out an attack that reportedly killed 3 of Iran's most influential figures. Strikes on Iran's nuclear program and high-ranking military leaders could become a turning point in this prolonged conflict, as Israel prepares for a large-scale retaliatory strike from Iran, and now the threat of a larger regional war has become absolutely real. It later became clear that retaliatory actions had already started. After the Israeli military stated that Iran had launched more than 100 Shahed drones toward Israel, and that Israel had begun intercepting them outside its borders. It is known that Jordan also joined in repelling this attack. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, warned that Israel would face severe punishment for the attacks, and confirmed that a number of Iranian commanders and scientists had indeed been killed. A representative of Iran's armed forces stated that both the United States and Israel will pay a high price for this. United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio immediately stated that the United States of America was not involved in these strikes, noting that Israel had informed the United States that it believed the actions were necessary for its self-defense. Interestingly, the day before, United States President Donald Trump warned about the possibility of a large-scale conflict in the Middle East, which, as he put it, could happen soon in a televised address to the nation. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated that the military operation struck a blow to Iran's nuclear program. Its targets were Iran's main uranium enrichment facility in Natanz, Iranian nuclear scientists, and Iran's ballistic missile program. As Netanyahu stated, quote, "A few minutes ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to eliminate the Iranian threat to Israel's very existence. This operation will continue for as many days as necessary to eliminate this threat." The Israeli military statement said that Israeli fighter jets also carried out a large-scale strike on air defense systems in western Iran. And, as stated in the Israeli military statement, dozens of radars and surface-to-air missile launches were destroyed during the strikes. One of the most influential people in Iran, General Hossein Salami, the commander-in-chief of the elite Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, was among those killed in the attacks. The Revolutionary Guard Corps has already confirmed this information, and Major General Mohammad Bagheri, the Chief of Staff of the Iranian Armed Forces and the country's highest-ranking military officer, was also killed. According to Iranian state television, the former head of Iran's national security, Ali Shamkhani, who is a key advisor to Ayatollah Khamenei and served as the Secretary of the National Security Council for almost a decade, was also killed. Also among the dead were 6 Iranian nuclear scientists who were working on Iran's nuclear program. Today's strikes suggest that Netanyahu saw an opportunity, a window to achieve Israel's long-standing goal of destroying Iran's nuclear program. Iran is currently in its weakest military position in probably the last decade. After crippling economic sanctions, previous Israeli strikes on its air defenses, and the destruction of its most powerful regional proxies, including Hezbollah. The 6th round of nuclear talks between the United States and Iran was scheduled for Sunday. It was supposed to take place in Oman. And interestingly, Washington stated that even after Israel strikes on Iran, they are still open to these very talks. Iran has already refused them, after which American President Donald Trump warned that things would only get worse for Iran from now on. It's interesting that now several countries, of course, have expressed concern and condemnation in connection with Israel's strikes. And, for example, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Saudi Arabia stated that the attack undermines the sovereignty and security of Iran and represents a clear violation of international laws and norms. Well, the Chinese embassy in Iran called the situation serious and complicated. All night in the capital, Tehran, repeated explosions could be heard, and numerous videos showed flames and smoke bursting from buildings all over the city. So Tehran was really massively attacked. Iran's airspace was also closed, and Israel in turn declared a state of emergency, closing its airspace, shutting down schools, and banning public gatherings. Interestingly, tens of thousands of Israeli soldiers have already been called up as part of preparations for an Iranian counterattack. This was stated by the Chief of Staff of the Israeli military. Now let's briefly discuss who was eliminated today in Iran. Let's start with Major General Hossein Salami. He is the head of the semi-secret Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. He controlled the most powerful military forces in Iran and reported directly to the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. According to the United States sanctions dossier, Salami was born in 1960 and has led the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps since 2019. In this position, he led one of the most powerful tools in the hands of the Iranian state, which played an important role in suppressing dissent within the country and projecting Iran's influence abroad. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps finances and supports an extensive network of so-called militias throughout the region, which it uses to strike at United States and other countries' military personnel across the Middle East. That is, all these so-called Iranian proxy forces are fully overseen by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps also supplies weapons, finances, and any other support to the Yemeni Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the so-called resistance axis in Iraq. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps was fully involved in all military operations in Syria. And accordingly, when it comes to the Yemeni Houthis, it is precisely the support of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps that allows this group to strike international shipping in the Red Sea and launch rockets and drones at Israel. Salami was the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps when Iran launched hundreds of drones and missiles at Israel in April and October last year. Moreover, it is important to note here that it was Salami, who was eliminated today, who led the operation when the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps shot down a Ukrainian passenger plane shortly after it took off from Tehran International Airport. As you remember, as a result, all 176 people on board were killed. According to the Iranian news agency MEHR, an unnamed Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps commander who operated the TORM Air-1 missile defense system that shot down the plane was sentenced to 13 years in prison. As for Salami himself, he bore no responsibility. And it should be noted that removing Salami is similar to removing the chairman. For example, if we compare it to the United States Joint Chiefs of Staff, it's at the level of the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. Let's move on. Major General Mohammad Bagheri was also eliminated today. Since 2016, he held the position of Chief of Staff of the Iranian Armed Forces, whose personnel numbers can exceed 500,000 people. The General Staff of Iran is the highest military authority in Iran, which implements policy controls and coordinates the activities of the armed forces. Bagheri was sanctioned by the United States along with 9 other people from Ayatollah Khamenei's inner circle, who for decades oppressed the Iranian people, exported terrorism, and pursued destabilizing policies around the world. This is stated in a document from the United States Department of the Treasury. Well, today, American media report that in April of this year, Bagheri met in Tehran with the Minister of Defense of Saudi Arabia, Prince Khalid bin Salman Al Saud, during a rare visit of a high-ranking member of the Saudi royal family to the Islamic Republic. And then the following month, it was reported that during the meeting, the Minister of Defense of Saudi Arabia warned Bagheri that they should take Donald Trump's proposal for negotiations on the nuclear deal seriously, because this is a way to avoid exactly what happened today, that is, Israel's attack on Iran. Let's move on. Ali Shamkhani, who was also eliminated today, was a close aide to Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and he represented Tehran in negotiations that resulted in the historic agreement to restore diplomatic relations with Saudi Arabia. Now, information about his death is already being confirmed. Shamkhani held the position of Iran's top national security official for a decade, starting from 2013. Well, before that, he held a number of important positions, including in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Ministry of Defense of Iran. According to analysts, he was a rising star in Iranian diplomacy, well known in foreign policy circles in Washington and Europe. Shamkhani represented Iran in negotiations with Saudi Arabian officials, which were mediated by China. But in the middle of 2023, he was suddenly replaced and pushed a bit into the background. But nevertheless, he is also a fairly high-ranking Iranian official. Interestingly, the United States initially distanced itself from this attack. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated that the United States is not involved in the strikes that Israel is carrying out against Iran, noting that Israel informed the United States that it believes these actions are necessary for its self-defense. Here is a quote from Marco Rubio. "This evening, Israel took unilateral action against Iran. We are not involved in the strikes against Iran, and our main priority is the protection of American forces in the region." Israel stated that these actions are necessary for its self-defense, according to their view. President Trump and the administration have taken all necessary steps to protect our forces and remain in close contact with our regional partners. Let me be clear, Iran must not target the interests or personnel of the United States of America. At the same time, Trump is convening a cabinet meeting today as Israel has begun striking Iran, and decisions are expected to be made there on how the United States can further participate in this operation. Immediately after that, the American president already warned Iran that it would be better for them to make a nuclear deal and abandon the idea of obtaining nuclear weapons, because he knows that Israel is just warming up and there will be much stronger strikes on Iranian territory in the future, and he hinted that your nuclear facilities will, one way or another, really be destroyed. At the same time, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed that Israel struck nuclear facilities in Iran and stated that the operation will continue for many days. As Netanyahu stated, this operation will continue for as many days as needed to eliminate the threat. He said that Iran has a nuclear weapons development program and stated that the country could create nuclear weapons if it is not stopped. This is a clear and real danger to the very survival of Israel. We struck Iran's nuclear weapons program. We struck Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We struck Iranian nuclear scientists working on the Iranian bomb. We also struck at the very heart of Iran's ballistic missile program. By defending ourselves, we are also defending others. We are protecting our Arab neighbors. They too have suffered from Iran's campaign of chaos and slaughter, said Netanyahu today. Israel stated today that the strikes on Iran aim to eliminate three components of the Iranian threat, with the first being Iran's acquisition of nuclear weapons. Here is what one of the Israeli officials said, quote, "For the first time, we are revealing that the Iranian regime is advancing a secret program to develop nuclear weapons. Iran has enough fissile material to create 15 nuclear bombs within just a few days." The second component of the threat is Iran's thousands of ballistic missiles, which it plans to double and eventually triple. Quote, "We're talking about a number of missiles that even without nuclear weapons pose an existential threat." And the third component is Iran's distribution of weapons and ammunition to regional proxy forces for use against Israel. Interestingly, Israel's attack also has so-called side effects. The fact is that the price of American oil rose sharply right after Israel struck Iran, targeting the country's nuclear and military facilities. The fact is that literally an hour after the attack, oil rose by more than 8% to almost $74 per barrel. This puts oil on track for the biggest one-day percentage gain since March. In 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine, already on Friday afternoon, the Israel Defense Forces released a video showing how the Israel Defense Forces, during a strike on the Iranian regime's air defense system, destroyed dozens of radars and surface-to-air missile launchers. As the Israel Defense Forces writes, quote, "In recent hours, Air Force fighter jets, under the precise guidance of the Intelligence Directorate, carried out a massive strike on the Iranian regime's air defense system in western Iran. During the attacks, dozens of radars and surface-to-air missile launchers were destroyed. And as noted in the statement, throughout the war, the Israel Defense Forces systematically struck the air defense system of the Iranian regime and its proxies in the Middle East." Also, a fascinating point has been raised, because, as reported by Israeli media, Israel has been preparing for many years for an operation against Iran's nuclear and missile programs. The preparations included creating a drone base inside Iran and transferring precision weapons and special forces fighters to that country. In Ukraine, people are now jokingly calling this Operation Web 2.0. According to representatives of Israel's security forces, the operation was based on close joint planning between the Israel Defense Forces and Mossad. According to the representative, Mossad agents set up a drone base on Iranian territory near the capital, Tehran. These drones were activated at night and struck the surface-to-surface missile launchers aimed at Israel. In addition, vehicles equipped with weapon systems were secretly brought into Iran. These systems disabled the Iranian air defense systems, giving Israeli aircraft air superiority and freedom of action over Iranian territory that night. The third covert element of the operation was the deployment of Mossad commandos with precision-guided missiles near anti-aircraft installations in central Iran. The operation relied on innovative thinking, bold planning, and the precise use of advanced technologies. Special units and agents operating in the very heart of Iran and completely evading the attention of local intelligence services, said today in Mossad. Immediately after that, information appeared online that the facility, which is the center of Iran's nuclear ambitions, was engulfed in flames, according to images on social media. The nuclear complex in Natanz specifically. This city, about 250 kilometers south of the capital Tehran, is considered the largest uranium enrichment facility in Iran and houses the country's advanced nuclear program. Analysts say that the facility is used for developing and assembling centrifuges for uranium enrichment, a key technology that turns uranium into nuclear fuel. And here is a video on social media showing smoke rising from the direction of this facility. And moreover, this video shows large plumes of smoke rising high into the sky from this complex. Data from National Aeronautics and Space Administration's Fire Information for Resource Management System showed that the fire at the facility started after 2 a.m. local time, that is, right after Israeli aircraft struck this facility. Information about the attack on the facility in Natanz was indirectly confirmed today by the International Atomic Energy Agency as well. In particular, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, stated the following: "The International Atomic Energy Agency can confirm that the facility in Natanz is among the targets. The agency is in contact with the Iranian authorities regarding radiation levels. We are also in contact with our inspectors on the ground." But later on, the Iranian Atomic Energy Agency was still forced to report that Iran's main uranium enrichment facility in Natanz was indeed damaged as a result of Israel's attack. The agency reported that the complex, which has above-ground and underground facilities, was damaged, but the extent is unclear. No casualties were reported. The head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog, Rafael Grossi, stated that Iranian authorities confirmed that Natanz was affected, but no increased radiation levels were detected. Grossi also informed the International Atomic Energy Agency board members that other nuclear facilities in Iran, such as Fakhani and Fordo, have not been affected so far. A little later, Iranian state media reported a new Israeli attack, showing a large column of smoke rising after an explosion in the northwestern city of Tabriz. The Tasnim news agency reported that the Tabriz airport is currently under heavy attacks from Israel. And now there are doubts about whether Iran will actually be able to launch a massive response against Israel in retaliation for today's attack. The thing is, yes, Iran has already launched about 100 Shahed drones, but there are questions about what comes next. The thing is, today Israel attacked many missile storage sites and destroyed missile launchers. And the Israel Defense Forces stated that they have completed a large-scale strike on the air defense system of the Iranian regime in western Iran. As part of these attacks, dozens of radars and surface-to-air missile launches were destroyed. There are already videos online showing how it all happened. And moreover, even ballistic missiles that were already aimed at Israel were destroyed. In addition to this, a missile depot was attacked in the Iranian city of Kermanshah, and a video of the fire at this depot also appeared. In addition to this, a little later today, Israel attacked tactical aviation bases in Shiraz and Tabriz. And there are also videos from there showing huge plumes of smoke rising, which indicates that the strike really hit a place where aircraft were concentrated. The video shows a secondary detonation of munitions. In addition to this, today a video also appeared online showing how mobile ballistic missile launchers were intercepted in the city of Kermanshah. And it's quite possible that this was done specifically by Mossad operatives on the ground, meaning definitely not from the air. And it's known that these mobile launchers were aimed at Israel. Therefore, it can be concluded that Israel has effectively destroyed Iran's missile potential. At the moment, at least what had already been prepared for a retaliatory strike has definitely been hit. Therefore, there are big questions here about whether Iran will be able to respond to Israel in any way in the near future. And the culmination of today's Israeli attack on Iran so far has been a statement from United States President Donald Trump, who warned Iran of the need to agree to a nuclear deal before there is nothing left of it. And Trump suggested that subsequent Israeli attacks on Iran would be even more brutal. So Trump wrote today that the Iranian leaders didn't know what was supposed to happen. They're all dead now, and it's only going to get worse. Quote, "There have already been many deaths and destruction. But there's still time to put an end to this slaughter, and the next planned attacks will be even more brutal. Iran must make a deal before nothing is left and save what was once known as the Persian Empire." And next I'll read out Donald Trump's entire post on social media. But before that, let me remind you that negotiations between the United States and Iran were scheduled for June 15th in Oman, but Iran is pulling out of those talks. And here is what comes next. Donald Trump writes the following today: "I gave Iran chance after chance to make a deal. I told them in the strongest terms, just do it. But no matter how hard they tried, no matter how close they were, they just couldn't do it. I told them it would be much worse than anything they knew, expected, or had heard. That the United States produces the best and most lethal military equipment in the world, right away. And that Israel has a lot of it, will have even more, and they know how to use it. Some Iranian hardliners spoke boldly, but they didn't know what was supposed to happen. They're all already dead, and it's only going to get worse. Many have already died, and much has been destroyed, but there's still time to stop this slaughter. The next planned attacks will be even more brutal. Iran must make a deal before there's nothing left of it, and save what was once known as the Persian Empire. No more deaths and no more destruction. Just do it before it's too late. God bless you, writes Donald Trump. So it's obvious that Israel will continue its attacks on Iran in the near future, and as Netanyahu stated, this war will be long. But the Americans will try to use this escalation to actually force Iran to essentially surrender its interests and sign the nuclear agreement. And most importantly, to abandon its nuclear program. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Once again, I urge you to subscribe to our Telegram channel. We post news there more promptly. And if you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so financially with any donation. You can use the links and payment details in the description of this video or the quick response code on your screens. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone. Subtitles created by